All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today. For this Q&A session on managing chronic conditions with food. I'm your host, Neha Patel. I'm one of the regional lead dietitians with FoodSmart. And joining me today, we have Claire, who will be manning the questions that you are putting into the chat. So feel free to put into the chat any questions that you have about FoodSmart or just to discuss the presentation with others here. And any of the questions that you have for me, please also drop into the chat and we'll try to get to as many as we can at the end here. So the webinar is also being recorded and will be sent out to all of you for on-demand streaming in the next couple of days. So I promise we'll get to the presentation soon, but first let me just introduce FoodSmart to those of you who may be new to us. So FoodSmart makes eating well simple, and we do that through personalized nutrition. We believe that food is a powerful tool in creating a healthy life, and we want to make it easier for you to make choices that will support your health goals. We do this through one-on-one visits with registered dietitians like myself to provide you with personalized plans that are custom tailored to your lifestyle. Your dietitian will listen to your medical and family history, your food preferences, cooking abilities, food budget, and so much more to give you nutrition care that will actually work for you. Your dietitian will also set you up with the FoodSmart app, which has features such as thousands of chef-created recipes and dietitian-approved recipes, and customizable meal planner, in-app grocery ordering function, and so much more to make eating well easy on your mind and your wallet. For those of you on this webinar today, we are giving you a $15 Walmart gift card after your first visit with a dietitian. So if you use the code CONQUER when scheduling, you can use this $15 gift card. So go to foodsmart.com/schedule to sign up. So we went through the questions that were submitted ahead of time, and we grouped them into some common themes. So if you don't hear your specific question being addressed, don't worry because it will probably be answered throughout the presentation. We will still have some time for live Q&A, so put your questions that pop up throughout the presentation into the Q&A tab at the bottom of the Zoom screen. So the most talked about conditions and the three that we will be talking about today include diabetes, high cholesterol, and irritable bowel syndrome. So a little bit about diabetes. To start talking about diabetes, let's first go over the stages and types of diabetes diagnosis. Pre-diabetes, this is when blood sugars are higher than normal, but not high enough to be diagnosed as diabetic. If you have type 1 diabetes, your immune system is attacking or destroying your insulin-producing cells in your pancreas. This is a genetic disorder that often shows up early in life and requires insulin to regulate the blood glucose. Type 2 diabetes can be hereditary and is mostly diet-related and develops over time, but it can also be controlled with diet and exercise. Diabetes can be harmful if it is not managed. So if blood glucose levels remain high, it can also primarily affect your eyes, your kidneys, your heart, and your feet. So what is blood sugar? The first question that people usually have about diabetes surround blood glucose, or more commonly known as blood sugar. But it's really simple. The main sugar found in your blood, this is the main sugar that's found in your blood. It comes from the foods that we eat, and it is your body's main source of energy. Your blood cells carry the glucose to all of your body's cells, where it gets used for energy. When blood sugar levels are too high, that is when you may develop diabetes. And when it may develop over time, blood sugars are usually measured in an HbA1c test, which gives you a 3-month average of blood glucose levels. Your doctor will let you know if your levels are out of a normal range. So how do I control my blood sugar? Keeping track of your blood glucose in a log and noting when it is out of range can help you pinpoint the cause. It is important to check your blood glucose at different times of the day. Rotate times between the morning, fasting first thing in the morning, 2 hours after a meal, and before bedtime to get the most comprehensive picture. The American Diabetes Association recommends keeping your fasting blood glucose levels between 80 and 130 milligrams per deciliter, and a goal of less than 180 milligrams per deciliter 2 hours after a meal. The target goal for your hemoglobin A1C is less than 7%. Again, this is a 3-month average of your blood glucose. This is also where working with the dietitian can be beneficial, as we will help you create a diet and exercise plan to help manage your diagnosis and to help bring those numbers back to a normal range. So sugars versus carbs. The most common misconception that we see dietitians hear a lot is carbs are bad because they spike your blood sugar, lead to diabetes, and cause weight gain. Let's quickly break down these myths and discuss the difference between sugars and carbs. When people refer to sugars, they are usually talking about simple carbohydrates, which are usually found in foods that are made up of 1 or 2 sugar molecules. The molecules are easily broken down into the body and are usually found in foods that contain little nutritional value. Some examples include straight sugar, such as white, brown, honey, maple syrup, even foods such as cakes or soda and other baked goods. On the other hand, complex carbohydrates have to be broken down into simpler molecules before being digested. So the digestion process is much slower, which will help you stay more full for a longer period of time. Additionally, they contain fiber and other key nutrients that your body needs. Examples of complex carbohydrates includes foods such as vegetables, legumes, whole grains, which take much longer to break down and won't spike your blood glucose levels. So is diet soda better? Diet sodas don't have calories, so they may be thought of as a good alternative to regular soda. However, some research does show that those who drink diet soda have higher activity in the area of the brain, which is associated with the desire to consume foods higher in fat and sugar. So those who drink diet soda seem to alter the brain's sweet sensing reward center, which means that diet soda could potentially change how the brain reacts to cravings for higher calorie foods. So let's get into a little bit about high cholesterol. What's the difference between good and bad cholesterol? So first things first, what are the types of cholesterol and are they created equal? LDL cholesterol is often called bad cholesterol because it collects in the walls of your blood vessels, which raises the chance of health problems such as heart attacks and strokes. HDL cholesterol is known as the good cholesterol because it does help remove the forms of cholesterol. It helps remove the other forms of cholesterol from your bloodstream. Higher levels of HDL cholesterol are associated with lower risk of heart disease. So does cholesterol in your food impact the cholesterol in your body? Another big question is, do foods with high cholesterol content increase the amount of cholesterol in your blood? The biggest difference in blood cholesterol level is the mix of fats and carbohydrates in your diet, not necessarily the amount of cholesterol that you eat from food. The goal would be to consume foods with monounsaturated fats, such as nuts, seeds, avocado, extra virgin olive oil, and to limit saturated fats from cured meats, bakery items, and processed foods. Scientific studies show a weak relationship between the amount of cholesterol a person consumes and his or her blood cholesterol levels. Although different bodies may react differently to the amount of cholesterol consumed, and it's often hereditary as well. Are eggs actually bad for you? This is such a big question that as dietitians get asked all the time. It seems like every few years, some big headline comes out that commonly eaten food such as is detrimental to your health. So let's discuss, are eggs bad for you? Research shows that the cholesterol in eggs doesn't seem to negatively affect the human body compared to other sources of cholesterol. When eggs are eaten with other foods high in salt, saturated fat, and cholesterol, such as bacon, cheese, and butter, there is an increase in the risk of heart disease, and combining these foods should be portioned. So you may want to limit the bacon, egg, and cheese bagels and choose more of a heart-healthy option, such as eggs with fruit and whole grain bread, for example. So what oil is safe to use if I have high cholesterol? This is another common misconception, that all oil is really bad for you. And I'm sure that all of you know the recent canola oil video that has been going around. The truth is that all oils are safe to use, of course, in moderation. However, the most heart-healthy oils to use are ones with the monounsaturated fats, such as avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, and grapeseed oil, just to name a few. Adding these into your diet and salad dressings and sauces can help with your HDL cholesterol. So what diet helps reduce cholesterol levels? To control high cholesterol, it is best to limit red meat once per week and to include fish and poultry or other vegetarian protein options such as tofu or tempeh paired with green leafy vegetables, which can be cooked or raw. A whole grain such as brown rice, quinoa, or even a baked potato with the skin. If you are looking for a little more of a structured diet pattern to follow, the Mediterranean diet has been shown in studies to reduce cholesterol levels and reduce heart disease, heart attacks, and strokes. The eating pattern focuses on primarily a plant-based diet with whole grains, fruits and vegetables, healthy fats, and fish. Your dietitian can help you determine what type of diet is best suited for you and your unique medical and lifestyle needs. So a little bit about irritable bowel syndrome and gut health. What foods are triggering for IBS? While there is no cure for IBS, there are certain foods and medications that can make symptoms worse. Avoiding the following food may bring some relief: high-fat foods, dairy, alcohol, caffeine, artificial sweeteners, and foods with insoluble fiber such as beans, cabbage, cruciferous veggies, and wheat products. Levels of stress and physical activity can also be a trigger for IBS. Symptoms of IBS will range from person to person depending on the severity and the type of IBS you have, but the most common symptoms include bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, and indigestion. So what is the best diet for IBS or other gut health issues? Generally, the best diet for people with IBS is a low FODMAP diet. The FODMAP stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. These are short-chained carbohydrates that are not completely digested or absorbed in our intestines. When the FODMAPs reach the small intestines, they move slowly, which attract water, and then they pass into the large intestines. The FODMAPs are fermented by the gut bacteria, producing gas as a result. In people with the IBS, this can lead to a lot of discomfort and very disruptive symptoms. The idea is to limit these foods, but not all, as they do have health benefits. Some examples of food groups to limit include lactose from dairy and cheese, fructose from apples, pears, sweeteners, fructans from Brussels sprouts and wheat, oligosaccharides from legumes, and polyols from apples, pears, cauliflower, and sugar substitutes, just to name a few. The goal would be to try an elimination diet and to slowly reintroduce foods one by one and to monitor symptoms. So when you hear about the stuff that's fixing your gut health that you see online, is this a scam? Gut health is such a buzzword right now, and there are so many trendy products and programs on the market that are promising to fix your gut. It is always best to speak with your doctor and a registered dietitian before starting any new supplements. And it's generally very important to look at the ingredients. Generally, probiotics are safe to take, as their purpose is to help your body maintain a healthy community of microorganisms and to return to a healthy condition after being disturbed by IBS or ulcerative colitis. Prebiotics act like fertilizers that help stimulate the growth of healthy bacteria in the gut and are found in many fruits and vegetables, which contain complex carbohydrates, meaning they are non-digestible and they pass through the digestive system to become healthy food for the bacteria and other microbes. So some of the main takeaways are from diabetes to keep a blood sugar log, which can help with diabetes management. Diabetics should avoid simple carbs or sugars and increase the amount of complex carbohydrates. Eating a balanced diet high in unsaturated fats and exercising regularly can help reduce the LDL or bad cholesterol levels. Pro and prebiotics can help with gut health, but be aware of gimmicky scams. A low FODMAP diet is best for people with IBS. Working with a dietitian will give you a personalized plan to manage any chronic conditions that you are battling. Benefits of working with a registered dietitian. So really quick, let's talk a little bit more about why working with a dietitian is so beneficial when you're trying to manage a chronic condition. Having a dietitian is like having a built-in support system, a cheerleader, accountability partner to help you with your health journey. Dietitians are experts in the nutrition field and know how food can impact your health and chronic conditions in both positive and negative ways. Your dietitian will not judge you, police your eating, or talk you into extreme diets. They will work with you to create a unique plan that will help you manage your conditions so that you can get back to a normal and healthy life. The first step in conquering your conditions is by scheduling a visit with a FoodSmart dietitian at foodsmart.com/schedule. And don't forget to use the code CONQUER at the end of your scheduling to get a $15 Walmart gift card after your first session. So we will open it up to questions.
All right, Neha, I see some good ones here in the Q&A. Any suggestions for food that help with liver function, specifically with Crohn's and seafood allergies?
Yes, so I would definitely make sure that with any kind of allergies or any kind of food intolerances, it's best to stay hydrated. Water is the #1 key. Also with the liver, to make sure that we are reducing, we're kind of choosing more low fat foods. So we want to make sure that we're not having any fried foods or anything fatty that might be hard to digest.
Cool. And another one that came in, what do you mean blood sugar affects the heart? In what way?
So when blood sugars are high, I always like to kind of think of it as a little bit, if you think of a visual of, if you spill Coke, for example, on your desk and it becomes a little sticky, that's kind of how it is in the bloodstream. So when we have a little bit of the sugar floating around in the bloodstream, it can affect, when blood sugars are high, it kind of takes over a little bit of the oxygen that's floating around in the bloodstream. So when those are high, sometimes high blood sugars can lead to blurry vision, which can affect the retina of your eye. So it can affect those eyes long-term if it's not managed.
And what are your best recommendations for a leaky gut?
So that is something, as long as it is diagnosed by the doctor, it is best to make sure we're eating small portions of foods a little bit more frequently, and to try to reduce refined carbohydrates, and also white sugar, dairy products, artificial sweeteners, caffeine. So very similar to the foods that we talked about with the IBS.
Well, another good question came in, is Indian food healthy? And I love Indian food, so I would love to know the answer.
So it depends on how it's prepared. Typically restaurants will have a little bit higher fat and sodium content in the foods because they typically make them in larger portions. So if they're made at home, you can definitely alter the recipes. A lot of the recipes at the restaurants have a lot of coconut oil or a lot of heavy creams in the sauces, but you can replicate it at home by using lower fat items to help thicken the gravy up.
That sounds so good. I see a question here that actually I can answer. Is there a charge to the employee for seeing a dietitian? So FoodSmart works with a lot of health plans and employer groups to bring visits with dietitians to their employees and to their health plan population at no charge. The likelihood of you being covered is pretty high because we do work with a lot of major insurance plans and employer groups. But if you have any questions about your coverage, please email support@foodsmart.com and they will be able to check all of that for you and give you a price. If we are not covered by your employer or health insurance group, then we do offer a subscription-based model that is $69 per month, and that gets you one visit with a registered dietitian every month and access to the FoodSmart app, which Neha talked about earlier, has some really amazing features. So there are multiple options for everyone on this call. But if you have any questions about your coverage, just email support@foodsmart.com and they'll be able to take care of you. Another question that came in, are there any foods you can recommend that have cancer fighting agents?
Yes. So for cancer fighting, definitely want to stick more to the dark green leafy vegetables. A lot of antioxidants are found in berries, so strawberries, blueberries. And as winter is coming up, you may not be able to get fresh berries, but if you get frozen, those are just as good, as long as they're not in syrup. Any kind of frozen berry is a great way. You can add to smoothies, you can add to oatmeal. So great way to help with that cancer fighting properties.
Awesome. Is the Mediterranean diet recommended for high cholesterol?
Yes, so the Mediterranean diet does include a lot of lower, leaner proteins such as fish, more seafood, a lot of greens, a lot of plant-based foods as well too, to kind of balance those meals out.
Cool. Is extra virgin olive oil the same, have the same benefits as olive oil? What is the difference there?
Yeah, so extra virgin olive oil is, you will typically see that for cooking. It's minimally processed. There's so many different brands out there when it comes to that, but basically it does have, it's unrefined, so it's not processed as much, which is why it's a little bit better to use as far as monounsaturated fats.
What natural foods do you recommend for getting more energy?
So that would be, based off of kind of more of a balanced diet. So when we talk about natural foods, I always say to think back to the basics, think back to vegetables that are, if we can get them from more of our farmers markets or local grocery stores, minimally processed. So fresh is best if we can, but again, we want to kind of avoid anything canned if possible. If there are beans that are canned, we want to try to rinse them out because I know it does take a long time to soak beans in general or legumes. Any kind of natural food, as in minimally processed, would be the best option.
Cool. Can diet reverse hypertension? That's a big question.
Yeah, so again, it does depend on kind of the level and where you are. If hereditary can also play a big factor in that. But with hypertension, definitely diet and exercise, just kind of getting the heart rate up, keeping the metabolism at a good level for you, along with what you're eating. So again, reducing sodium in the diet can help reduce that hypertension or blood pressure level.
And this is another good question. Do you have any foods that you recommend for polycystic ovarian syndrome?
Yeah, so oftentimes with PCOS, it is in correlation with the diabetic diet or kind of controlling carbohydrates. So in general, I would say kind of stick to more, again, of those complex carbohydrates. So things like oatmeal, kind of avoiding any kind of bakery items or choosing more minimally processed foods. So more complex carbohydrates. So things like sweet potatoes, if you are doing potatoes, anything with the skin or peel. So if you're eating cucumbers, apples, any of those, keep the skin on because you'll be getting the benefit of the fiber from those foods.
Cool. And this is an interesting question that I've never even heard of these. Does taking garlic supplements help lower cholesterol?
That's a big one as well too. So with any kind of supplement, it's always good to speak to your doctor first, just because sometimes they can interact with medications that you're on. So garlic in general, I always recommend to add to your cooking if you're using in any foods versus taking any supplements.
Gotcha. So more garlic. I think I can do that. See if there's any that I missed up here. Ooh, is turkey bacon and lunch meat okay? I think this might have been when we were talking about processed meats.
Yeah, again, anything in moderation is okay. Turkey definitely would be a better option than, some of the red meats. However, any kind of deli meat, you do want to make sure that if you are purchasing it, it still is processed, but it would be a better option to purchase it from the deli counter versus any of the prepackaged items.
Gotcha. Is it true that the body treats artificial sweeteners the same as regular sugar?
That's another great question. So artificial sweeteners, so when we talked a little bit about the diet soda, it does trick the brain a little bit. So although there's no calories, artificial sweeteners are often more sweet. So for example, Splenda is about 4 times as sweet as regular sugar. So it actually sometimes gives you more cravings, which can lead to eating a little bit more. So depending on how we control it and how much we're having of it, calorie wise, it's different, but it does trick your brain into thinking that, it wants more of a sweet food.
Gotcha. Well, we are at time. I think that's all the questions we have time for today. But thank you all for asking such wonderful questions.
Thank you all so much for joining.
We'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.